Hey everyone, just got a little bit of free time here in the saw shop. Just thought I'd go further into the XL76 build. I hit 800 subscribers last night. Thanks everybody that comes here. The more people that come here and the more questions and ideas I get, the more it drives me to do more videos. You know, videos take a lot of, they can take a lot of time. But it's worth it if people watch it and people enjoy what you're doing. So it's good. Some of the videos that I've taken the longest on and written notes and that are the ones people watch. So it's a good payoff for me. Piece of sheet metal hit me in the nose. I don't know if anybody can see that. I wish I had a nickel for every time that's happened, but in case anybody's curious what I done. Gravity, everything I do is up there and everything falls down here. So anyhow, let's get right into this without rambling on. Homelite XL76. I cut the bridge out, okay? This exhaust bridge, it's gone. A lot of people are not going to like that. That's a bad idea. It might be. I'm going to do it. Okay? That bridge is there. If you look, so when you're porting saws and modifying saws, or engines in general, there's basic things you're going to look at. You're going to look at your width of your bore. This one is 46 millimeters, I believe. Look how wide that exhaust is. Okay? It's crazy wide. That's probably that's probably a full inch wider than a normal exhaust port. Pretty close, 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so right there, when the ring goes down, it's gonna want to catch because it's bulging out. It's bulging out into that bore as it comes down. Okay, that's why Homelite used an exhaust divider. Okay, well I cut that out. That's a bad idea. So if you can't handle, or if you're not prepared to blow a saw up, maybe don't do that. I'm doing this on video because it's fun. I want to show you guys what you can do. And if this thing hangs a ring, I'll be the first one to make a video on it. Okay, so this bridge has been left here. I'm going to angle that in to make, when the ring comes up, it'll ease it into the exhaust port. And when it comes down, it'll ramp it back into the bore. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the idea behind that. The top of this is, let's see where we got here. So this was flat stock, completely flat. Notice it is angled up. Now this is not a finished porting. This is just roughed in, okay? When it's done, I'll show you guys. So this is angled. Now I had to cut that bridge out. That was a little bit tricky, okay? This is angled so that the ring eases into the port and out of the port. I have to chamfer for that on a slight angle inside to keep the ring from hanging. I think when you're redoing ports, chamfering can be the part that gives people the most trouble. Even myself, sometimes the chamfering is the hardest part of the porting. If you don't do it just right, you could scratch up the piston. So there's a little tip. Really pay attention to your chamfering. Make sure there's no burrs or anything like that. Because think about it. When you're porting, okay, from factory, the plating goes into the exhaust port a little bit. Okay, there's a nice rounded edge on the plating. When you port, you're chipping the plating, you're fracturing it on a microscopic level. Okay, you got to really smooth that out or it's going to scratch up the piston a little bit. You're going to get that to some degree on ported saws, some more than others, but less is better, right? So you really want to work on your port chamfers. Okay, we're going to blend all this in. Okay, it's a really strange exhaust port. We're going to blend this in carefully because that's a very thin lip there. Okay, at the top. That's a very, very thin lip. Like these are easy to grind because what you're grinding is only about 1/8 of an inch wide. Okay, so that's what I did with that. Pretty happy with it. It's pretty symmetrical. Let's move on to the transfers. Oh, did I mention this exhaust is at 100 degrees? Okay, from top dead center to the roof of this exhaust is at 100 degrees right now. I cut the base. Yeah, I cut the base of this cylinder with the lathe. I wasn't gonna do that, but I decided to. I cut 30 thousandths off the base of this. This thing had horrendous squish, 64 thousandths with a base gasket stock. I cut 30 thousandths off. I measured it with no base gasket. This thing's right around 25. I would like it at 20, but here's the thing. This thing wants to free port if I cut this base, okay, any deeper. For those of you that don't know what free porting is when the piston skirt on the upstroke clears the exhaust port. And what happens, all that fuel in the bottom end ends up, some of it comes squirting underneath the skirt of the piston and ends up in the muffler, which can make the saw run lean. Now some saws run okay free ported, those 660 clone saws. I've never built one. I'd like to in the future. They have been known for free porting, so, and they run okay, some of them. I hate free porting. I try to avoid it like the plague. So I left enough of an overlap on the piston skirt that this thing won't free port. Because remember, the lower you drop it, the higher the piston will actually go in the stroke, right? I mean, it goes the same, but if this is the top of the piston, or if this is the bottom of the piston stock and you drop it, look, it's here. This is the bottom of the piston stock. It's below the port, right? If you drop this, oh, you just free ported. So another thing that I look at when I'm cutting bases. So I cut the base. Now, look at this. Primary, secondary. Notice this one is slightly bigger than this one. Now notice, sorry, I'm doing this backwards. Which way are these angled? They're angled towards the intake side. Okay, your exhaust port is here. There you go. Your exhaust port is here. Look where the spark plug is facing, this way. Okay, so this fuel and air hits about here. Okay, over top of where the intake would normally be. Kenzie just did a video on porting Bayou Country power saws, and he describes what happens with the primary and the secondary. The secondary is there almost to steer the primary. Okay, so notice what I did here. I gave the secondary a little bit more. The primary didn't open up because the case is here, okay? But this side I could open more to get more flow into the transfers. Okay, so I opened that up, and now it's opened up. I want to steer it a little bit more to the primary, so I angled this in. Notice how it's tapered. See, it's wider here than it is here. That's going to create pressure. Same with this side, it's tapered. Okay, that's what I'm going to try on this. It should work. I like big lower transfers. More air, more power. I'm not afraid to tell you guys what I do. I don't make my living from this, and honestly, I don't think most people are going to port saws. But those of you that want to, I'd like to help you. So, okay, notice they're symmetrical. I really work on my shapes. Okay. Notice, here's your primary. Notice it's sloped in. Now, these are just roughed in. I rough these transfers up pretty good. I don't do much polishing of any kind on anything, let alone my transfers. Okay, now, there we go. Here's your exhaust port. Notice how much higher that is than here. The distance from this opening to these opening is your blowdown, okay? So from here to here is where the exhaust is coming out of the exhaust port. This is probably too low right now. I'm going to raise these the same distance. So if I raised my exhaust 7 degrees, which is quite a bit, guys. I raised my exhaust about 100 thousandths on this saw. So I'm just going to show you with a ring here how I would measure this. Okay. So what you do is, sorry, I'm just going to rough this in just close so that you can kind of understand what I do. I use the rings a lot to look at shapes and where everything is. Okay, where's my fancy? Okay, I got the ring in this cylinder. There's the exhaust roof, okay? There's approximately where your transfers open. So this is lined up flush with the roof of the exhaust. Notice the exhaust is ovaled. Notice it ramps down at the sides, and the highest point is the middle. That's going to ensure that this ring does not catch. Okay, you have to be really careful. If I ground this flat and just higher, this thing would blow up probably within 46 seconds. Okay, so I got my ring in here. I'm going to have to raise these higher, about the same amount I raised this. Probably about half the distance of where they are right now. Does that make sense? So the higher I raise these, the sooner it'll start putting fresh air and fresh fuel into the combustion chamber. Okay, that's your blowdown. So the sooner these open, the sooner it starts putting fuel into here. Too much blowdown, like too much of a distance between your exhaust roof and your transfers, the saw can run a little lean. It can lack power, depending on the saw. Every saw is going to be different. Every bore and stroke is going to be different. If I got a shorter stroke, I tend to want my blowdown number a little bit shorter, because the syringe, the pump, which is the piston and rod, physically doesn't move as far. So I feel like the stroke is so short that it's not going to fill enough. That seems to work. But, you know, a lot of people are going to tell you to not touch these transfers, and they're right. If you don't shape these just right, you're probably not going to get the results you want. But mark it with a marker. I use the piston. I put the ring in the cylinder. I slide the piston into the bottom of the jug, and then I turn the wheel until my piston is at the degrees I want. Say if my exhaust opens at 100, I want my transfers to open at, say, 120 on this. Okay, stock blowdown on this saw was 18 thousandths. So 18 to 20 thousandths is where I'm going to put these, or 18 to 20 degrees. Sorry, I mixed that up, guys. Okay, so stock was 18 to 20 thousandths, which is, let's see if we can get this back in here. The distance from here to here was about 20 degrees. I need to match this back to 20 degrees. It's at about, you know, a little bit more than that now, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm going to have to raise this probably to about here, which means I'm going to have to grind these and reshape them. That's going to be the majority of the work in this build. Okay, what are we at now? 15 minutes, 14 minutes. Sometimes I want to do a longer video. I'm not sure about this one. Okay, so does that make sense? We got 100 on the exhaust. We're going to go 20 degrees of blowdown on the transfers, meaning they open 20 degrees after the exhaust. We got to drill this stud out. Now, reeds. So, here's your reed, okay? Goes in your reed cage. There's your reed cage. Okay? These open and close. They do this, okay? They open and close as the piston is either sucking or blowing, right? So as once the piston pulls hard enough, these start to open and they let fuel, because the carb is literally right here, they let fuel into the crankcase. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna put this saw together with stock reeds. There's 4 of them on this cage, okay? 4 little reeds. And see if these are too stiff, they're not gonna open soon enough, and the saw is gonna be lazy. Reed valves tend, a lot of these old saws rev slow. That's from the reed valves. They're not snappy, okay? This saw runs pretty good stock, so I'm gonna run it with stock reeds. If it runs good, we're done. If it doesn't run good, then we can do a whole video series on me modifying the reeds, which will involve me bugging Harvey, the Iron Horse, quite a bit. I don't know that much about reeds. I understand how they work, but I haven't modified them. In my day, when you needed reeds for a dirt bike, you just go to Boysen and order a dual stage reed and throw it in, and she runs good. So that'll be fun. If it does work, I think it's going to work on this one. I did some measurements, and if not, I'll have to sand them and make them open a little sooner. You don't want them to open too soon or too long, because then when you run the saw up, she's going to be fueling way more than you need. So there's where we're at with that. Moving along, I'm just going to go over everything I'm doing on this saw. I'm not sure where I'm at. I shot some video the other day, and I haven't edited it yet, and I wanted to make sure that I can get a video out for you guys. So, because I figured there would be interest. I just loaded the first video, and there's lots of comments, so I haven't read all of them, but from what I can see, there's interest in this project. Sorry, I'm just mounting what I'm doing here with the carb. Okay, guys, here's the Homelite handle. Notice all this stuff's dirty. I don't care. I've kept the bottom end clean. The bottom end, I'm going to rinse it good. This thing was full of fines when I cracked the bottom end. The rest of the saw is going for a bath in the parts washer, so I'm not too concerned. What do we have here? We have I'm going to move it over a little bit. Sorry, this screw popped out. We have a 266 carburetor, an air filter, and look at that. It fits perfect on this Homelite handle. It doesn't even look too bad. I have quite a few of these. I buy blown up 200 series Huskies anytime I can find them. Bought one on Friday on the way home, just for stuff like this, carburetors, you know, chain brakes, stuff like that. That's the stuff I need a lot, and if I see a saw for 20 bucks with a good chain brake, I'm buying it. So this is what we're gonna do. Okay, 266 carb and air filter. This thing has a throttle linkage. Okay, it's hitting the back of this filter holder, so I'm gonna have to do some modifying. I'm probably gonna cut the filter holder so that it sits more forward. That'll take a lot of the where it's hitting away, and then I'll probably take a round file and I'll file a groove into the outside of this filter holder, and then we should get throttle. So right now the throttle linkage is pulled all the way back. So, but yeah, that'll work. We'll put a 266 carb. Why am I doing that? 2 reasons. Number one, the 266 carb that I have is a little bit larger, just slightly. It's not a huge difference, but it is a little bit larger. It's also not governed. These Homelites have governed carbs. That's why a lot of times the governors are no good. And when you see a Homelite video, they're really fat. It's because the governor is malfunctioning and they're overfueling. I've had that problem. That that 922 XL has some random governor issues. Again, I'm probably just going to put like a 272 carb on that and call it a day, and then it'll run perfect. So that's that. So that's where we're at. I'm glad people are interested in this. There's a lot of Homelites around here, so we might do a few more of these. You know, maybe we'll do a few more of these if they run good. Maybe I'll build these regularly, and whatever, they can go in the mail to somebody, or it seems like a pretty simple saw to port. There's lots of them around. The cost could be fairly low because buying these saws is pretty cheap. So that could be something we'll look at down the line. I'll probably build a few of these and give them to some buddies to run and see how they go. The only thing I'm not sure about, the rod on this saw is very small. It's high quality, it's hard, but it's very light. So we'll see if the rod can handle porting. I turned this thing up pretty spicy. You saw in the video where I ran it, the saw was really strong and moving, but I'm going to say something because I'm honest. The fuel line was broken inside the tank. I don't think this thing was getting enough fuel. I think she leaned out for those couple of cuts. So when I ran it, I was like, wow, that thing boogies. But it might be because it leaned out. So it also had no filter on it. So when I pulled the fuel line out, there's nothing from the case where the grommet goes through forward. I don't even know if this thing was getting fuel. So full disclosure, that thing was fast because it was probably way too lean. Good thing I just did a couple of cuts with it. So there you go. Anyhow, that's what we're up to in the saw shop. Yeah, I'll keep making videos on this till we're done it. It'll probably be another week or two till this thing's rocking and rolling. I got to get that stud out. There is a little bit of scoring over top of the exhaust port, but again, I don't really care. That usually doesn't affect much. There's just some fine scoring. This thing ran good. It had good compression, so I don't worry about stuff like that. Some guys get all bent out of shape if there's a little line in their bore. That's fine, but me, I'm like, meh. In fact, here, because you guys deserve proof. I mean, I can say things. There you go. I can say things, but here's the proof. This saw's been around on my channel for quite a while, right from the beginning. I don't know. I built this saw a couple years ago. 562 XP. This thing was grenaded. Top end was gone. Bottom end was gone. It's turned into a little bit of a money pit. It wasn't terrible though, but I had to literally do everything. Crank was still good. When I built this, there was no aftermarket top ends, and Husqvarna wanted $350 or something for top end. Plus, you know, there's $100+ in bearings and gaskets and yada yada yada. Carb kit for this thing was, you couldn't get an aftermarket carb kit then, and the OEM one, which was only available from Husqvarna then, was like $63, and this thing turned into a money pit. Well, the top end, I wasn't going to build this saw because I figured I'm going to be $550 into it. I can buy these on sale here for like $650, brand new. So I kind of threw this thing in a box and whatever. Well, without rambling on, I took this cylinder to my buddy that he's been building saws forever. He knows things, and this thing's got decent scoring. When the bearing let go, it went around the transfers, caught the tops of the transfers and the ring, and it made a pretty good gouge on one side over the transfer. I showed him, he said, bring that cylinder. I showed it to him and he went, let's hone it. So we honed it. I use hones, so again, people don't like hones, but I use ball hones. They work great. we honed it, and this saw has pretty decent scoring. Pretty decent scoring. Of course, the compression release is pushed in. Doesn't have the hugest compression. Does it run good? Oh yeah, this thing pulls chain like it's going out of style. I've been running it for 2 years. I've cut bazillions of feet of wood with it, and it's still going. Reliable, it starts. So, I mean, again, sometimes you're better off to just try. If this thing blew up again, oh well, I tried. The fact I've been running it for 2 years, and it's one of my go-to saws, proof is in the pudding. Scoring doesn't always mean the cylinder's toast or that it won't have any compression. Will it be as strong as a saw that has a perfect cylinder? Probably not, but does it matter? Not always. Anyhow. Okay. I'm coming back. Okay. Now we're at 26 minutes. We better slow this one down. Okay, so that's where we're at on the Homelite. I will update you guys as we go. Trying to think of new projects. If you guys have any ideas or things of that nature, let me know. I'd like to do some more work to that 922, and the coil from that saw is going to go into that saw because that thing's toast. That one needs a coil. So got a couple of vintage antique saws around here that we're going to be working on, and maybe doing a Echo 670 or 6700 in the future, and that's where we're at. Okay, I got off topic at the end of this last Homelite video, so and I'll put this in there. So that's where we're at with the Homelite. I think this thing's gonna be a ripper. I really do. I really do. So, or it's gonna blow up within 33 seconds. When this thing runs, I'm gonna make sure I film it, because if I do catch a ring, we gotta get it on video, right? If it's not on video, it didn't happen. That's a little bit of an inside joke. So yeah, this thing's gonna have to be on video. So there you guys go. No exhaust bridge in a Homelite. Will it work? I don't know. We're gonna find out though, aren't we? As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy.